Hey all, it's Taylor, and this is the TESmart HDK202-M24, which is a KVM that is capable of driving two 4K monitors at high refresh rate and supports up to 2 PCs. Now, why is that special? Because there's not a lot of KVMs that can drive modern gaming hardware that supports HDR10, Dolby Vision, GSync and FreeSync for AMD and NVIDIA GPUs, also ALLM for consoles. This KVM can handle all those technologies, and it can drive 4K monitors at up to 144 Hertz each. So a lot is packed into this KVM, which is a keyboard, video, mouse device. This is what you would use if you were connecting multiple PCs to one device, so that you don't have to have multiple keyboards, multiple mice. You can connect all of it to the TESmart and have everything in the central hub and easily switch between them using a button, the included remote, or the numerous hotkeys that are available for the TESmart HDK202-M24. And today we're gonna see exactly how it works. For the most part, it works pretty well, but there is some compromises that you should be aware of if you're using this in particular use cases. And as you might expect, this KVM is not cheap. It comes in at $499.99 US. So let's go ahead and check out everything that this KVM has to offer. TESmart was kind enough to send me this HDK202-M24 so that I could review it for y'all today. They don't get any sort of creative input on this video, and they see it the same time as you when it goes live on my YouTube channel. I have my affiliate link in the description below, which includes a special discount, so be sure that you check that out. Enjoy! At the top here, there is a claim your spot before it's gone. This is the 3-year extended warranty card and also 40% off product upgrades. That's a pretty sweet deal. There is a QR code at the back that you scan, and then there is a physical user booklet. Inside, it is compartmentalized with these boxes. Love to see that. This one that looks like a charging cable, because this is probably the power cable, not charging cable because it doesn't have a battery, but this is the power plug. Looks like a standard barrel plug there. It is cables. So first cable that we have here, this looks like a USB-B to, it says 8K, what is this? This is HDMI. So I am assuming that this is HDMI 2.1. They don't really do a great job of specifying whether this is HDMI 2.1, but I'm going to assume so since this is HDMI 2.1 ports. All right, the next box that I see, this looks like the HDK202-M24 itself. There's the front. Oh, and it comes with a fan, looks like. There's a little fan there on the side. Got the ports in the back, and then it looks like there's a little intake vent on this side. There are still 2 more boxes in here. Oh, it's a remote. Okay, so this does come with a remote since the unit itself has an IR receiver. And then the last box looks like more cables, DisplayPort cables, since there is DisplayPort ports on the back as well as HDMI 2.1. So you do get a couple of DisplayPort cables as well for your PCs. That's nice to see. At the front of the HDK202-M24, there is a combo headphone microphone jack. There are 2 5 gigabit USB ports. These are USB-A and they're capable of charging 7.5 watts of power. Next to those, there are another set of USB-As. These are for your keyboard and mouse. These are USB-A 1.1, so they are only for basic keyboard and mouse, and they can switch between a pass-through or a legacy mode. Then down below that, there are indicators that light up for display 1, 2, and audio, and these will switch between blue for the primary PC or green for the secondary PC so that you know which source is coming from where. Then there is the IR receiver for the remote. Next to that, the orange button is for switching between primary and the secondary PC. And then lastly, there is a power button, which you hold to turn the device on and you hold to turn the device off. So if you accidentally tap it, it's not going to immediately kill the KVM. And then at the very bottom, there is a light bar, which can cycle between 4 different modes, one of them being completely off. On the back of the HDK202-M24, there is a 1 gigabit Ethernet port. Below that is the power connector port. Then there is a service port. This is a UDART port. I'm not really sure what that does. Then there are 2 output ports. I will cover those in a bit, but these are HDMI 2.1 ports. These are the ports that you would connect your monitor to. Then next to that is the PC input ports. So you have PC1 and PC2, and they each have a USB-B port so that you can connect the USB-A to your computer. And then they have an HDMI 2.1 input port and a DisplayPort 1.4 input port. And all of these input ports have smart EDID so that things like your desktop icons and your video settings will be consistent when you plug in the same source. And then at the side, there is the fan, which has a couple different modes, and here is what those sound like. Hooking the HDK202-M24 up to a single PC with a single 4K monitor can be a bit confusing. At the back for PC1, there is a HDMI 2.1 in and a DisplayPort in. So which one do you use? So let's start with HDMI 2.1. Plug in the included HDMI 2.1 cable as well as the USB-B to the TESmart, and then on your graphics card, connect the HDMI 2.1 to your graphics card and the USB-A to your PC. Here's where my first couple of gripes with the HDK202-M24 come in. Those output 1 and output 2 ports directly correlate to the input ports of HDMI and DisplayPort at the back of the KVM, but they're labeled output 1 and output 2, which is confusing. Output 2 is the DisplayPort, so if you are connecting a single monitor with a single PC via DisplayPort instead of the HDMI 2.1, you can do that by connecting it to the DisplayPort on the back of your graphics card, but if you plug in your monitor to the output 1 port that's directly linked to HDMI, you're not going to get a video signal because you need to connect it to output 2 to get the video signal from the DisplayPort. I kind of wish TESmart labeled these DisplayPort and HDMI so that you know which one correlates to the back of the input ports on the KVM. With a single monitor setup, you are going to get the full 4K 240 Hz that HDMI 2.1 provides, and you are also going to get HDR as well as GSync and FreeSync, depending on if you have an NVIDIA graphics card or an AMD graphics card. And connecting a second PC, you follow the same process. Connect the HDMI 2.1 and the USB-B from the KVM to your second PC's graphics card, and then you don't have to connect a separate cable to the monitor since it's already feeding through output 1. Your monitor should already be hooked up. All you have to do is click the orange button to switch between the two PCs. You're also going to want to use a keyboard and mouse, obviously, so go ahead and connect those to the keyboard and mouse ports at the front, the USB 1.1 ports. This is going to allow you to enter the keyboard shortcut commands by hitting either Alt-Alt or Control-Control to enter command mode. You'll know you're in command mode when you hear a beep. And then from there, you can hit hotkeys to switch between the two PCs, or you can even enable a double mouse wheel click, which will allow you to switch with your mouse wheel. Now you can connect your keyboard and mouse to the USB A3 ports directly to the left, but you're going to lose that command functionality. So if you want that, you're going to need to connect to those two keyboard and mouse ports. And as you switch from PC to PC, you will notice that the lights turn from blue to green. The audio port is separated off to the right by itself because you can have audio not follow the PC that you're switching to, just in case you want to keep audio on your primary PC when you switch to your secondary PC, or vice versa. You can do that through the keyboard shortcut commands. That audio indicator light is directly correlated to the headphone microphone jack at the front of the device, which will show up as USB audio. If you're on PC, Mac, or a console, it will always be that USB audio, so you know to click that to connect to the audio for the TESmart HDK202-M24. And then if you want internet between the two PCs, you're gonna wanna go ahead and connect that Ethernet port at the back, which will give you 1 gigabit per second internet speeds, and I have a 1 gigabit per second connection, so it works great for me. Something to consider if you have a higher 2.5 or 5 gigabit per second network. And then finally, connecting another display is as easy as filling in that blank display port on the back of the KVM. That display port will connect directly to your graphics card. So hopefully you have a display port on your graphics card. If you are planning on connecting a laptop, hopefully it has a mini display port like my laptop, my Alienware laptop does. If you don't have that, then you might be SOL. This will support an additional 4K monitor at 144 Hertz. And actually for the 5 of you that are watching that have multiple 8K displays, this will support multiple 8K displays at 60 Hertz or one 8K display. I'm not even gonna touch on that because I don't have 8K. I suspect most of you don't, but if you do, you'll be happy to know that. And then to get video signal to that second monitor, you will need an additional HDMI 2.1 cable that is also not provided by TESmart to connect to your second monitor. And you can really do some cool stuff with multiple monitors. The first kind of typical scenario is you have 2 monitors for one PC. You can use mirror mode, you can use extend mode. This is pretty typical of what you would find in Windows if you had 2 monitors connected to one PC without the KVM. But what you can also do is you can have one PC on one monitor and the second PC on the second monitor, and you can switch inputs between the two by double clicking a keyboard keystroke. By default, it's double clicking right Alt. Obviously you can configure this as something else if you like, but that way you can control 2 PCs pretty much simultaneously or whenever you want on demand by double clicking that Alt key. And one thing that would be really cool to see that the TESmart doesn't have is picture-in-picture mode. So you can't have the second PC displaying anything on the first monitor or vice versa. It would have been cool to have like a little picture-in-picture on the monitor, but that is not present here on the HDK202-M24. In addition to the keyboard shortcuts that switch between the monitors, you can also use the remote. However, it is very poorly labeled with only A, B, 1, 2, and you have to find the combination of clicking A and 1, whether that be the primary PC to the second monitor, or B1, B2 to the secondary PC to the first monitor. It gets very confusing. The remote is not very nicely labeled, and for the most part, I was just randomly clicking buttons and hoping that I got the result that I wanted. The low latency on the HDK202-M24 is absolutely insane. I can just be playing a game of Call of Duty in 4K with HDR, with GSync enabled, and it is just buttery smooth. There is absolutely no noticeable latency degradation at all. And then if I have Doom running on my other PC, which I absolutely do, I can just hit the button, wait like 2 seconds, switch to it, and now I'm in full screen Doom. This is running on a completely different computer. And yeah, if I want to switch back to Call of Duty, I switch right in front of an enemy, so I'm probably dead in Doom, but I can go ahead and frag in Call of Duty, or die, whichever one comes first, all right? And then switch back to Doom. Oh, I'm not dead yet. It's insanely cool. The front USB-A ports do support devices like webcams. In here I have it connected in real time. I'm talking right now. I'm going to switch over to my other computer, which also has the camera app pulled up, and you can see just how fast it'll switch. There it is. I'm on camera right now. The only gripe I have with this is it's only USB-A, so if you have a webcam, like in this case, I have this Logitech webcam, which is actually USB-C, then you're gonna need a converter to USB-A. So what I'm hoping is in the next version, there is a USB-C port on the front here. And on the topic of ports, I wish these keyboard and mouse ports were behind at the back of the device so that you don't have this gross cable sticking out here for the keyboard, or if you had a cable for the mouse, the front ones just clutter up the workspace here. You don't have to connect a Windows PC to a second monitor or a primary monitor for that matter. The HDK202 will support Mac OS. I have connected my Mac to it, my work Mac and my personal Mac, and it works flawlessly. I also connected my PS5 to it, so it will support consoles, and HDR works perfect on the PS5. It supports ALLM, and I can play games, watch movies, pretty much use the full capacity of my PS5, including setting the source to that audio, and it works flawlessly on the TESmart. There's a lot of great things going for the HDK202-M24. However, there are some potential deal breakers that I want to address. The first of which is for dual monitor setups. I have the ASUS XG27UCDM-G and the Alienware AW3225QF, which are both 4K 240Hz monitors. And I connected both to a single PC, and I got 240Hz on one and 240Hz on the other. And you're wondering, well, how is that possible? Because it only supports 144Hz if you have dual monitors set up. And the answer is, I don't know exactly. The Alienware has compatibility issues with this KVM because other times I connected it, the Alienware would run at 120Hz and the ASUS at 240. And then there were even more times where the Alienware just flat out wouldn't work at all. There was no signal at all, but the ASUS stayed on. The ASUS doesn't have any issues, but the Alienware does. So if you are planning on having the Alienware 3225QF connected, be aware of that. And there's no issues with the monitor because when I connect it to my PC, the monitor runs flawlessly, so it is an issue with the KVM. I've also encountered issues with my Alienware laptop in particular, where if I switch from the Alienware laptop to another PC and then back, I never get the signal back from the Alienware PC. It's just gone, and I don't know why. I have it connected via HDMI 2.1, and I never get a signal back, even if I restart the KVM, or if I switch inputs again, or even if I unplug and replug the HDMI 2.1 into the Alienware, the signal doesn't return. I've also had experiences with laggy cursors whenever I boot up a computer for the first time, or it's first connected to the KVM while the KVM is on. And I found that the most reliable way to get the cursor to not be laggy is to turn the KVM off and then on again. I've also tried unplugging and replugging the mouse, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And then I've also ran into an issue where I've had two PCs connected to my 4K monitor, and one of the PCs was only recognizing that it was 1080p, whereas when I switched to the other one, it was 4K. And then when I switched back, it finally recognized that it was 4K. So there was a little bit of initial issues with maybe the EDID there detecting which resolution the monitor was running at. If you are a streamer looking for a dual PC setup and you are looking to use an Elgato capture card like the 4KX that I have here, be aware that it is not going to work on 4K with this KVM. It will not get a signal through 4K pass-through. It will only work with 1440p. So if your workflow relies on 4K, then this is not going to be the KVM for you. If you've been looking for that KVM that supports multiple 4K monitors at high refresh rate and has technologies like HDR, Dolby Vision, supports VRR like GSync and FreeSync, has ALLM for consoles, is compatible with consoles and Mac computers, the HDK202-M24 is absolutely for you. I really do hope that TESmart addresses some of the quirky issues that I found in firmware updates. I don't see a firmware updates on the main page of the HDK202-M24, so hopefully that appears someday. And then I also hope TESmart is able to address the issue with capture cards connected to the KVM, because I really do think that this would be very appealing to streamers looking to run dual PC setups. This would just be so useful for streamers if they were just able to switch from computer to computer with this KVM and a capture card. That would be a game changer, and I think this would be an absolute instant buy for streamers. So hopefully those issues do get resolved. Let me know your thoughts on the HDK202-M24 in the comments below. Is this a KVM that you are excited about? If you want to purchase this KVM, be sure to check out the affiliate link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.